The forgotten signal, the sky above Zirion Prime burned with a sickly green light. What had once been a peaceful mining world, home to 3 million souls, was now a battlefield. The Void Swarm had arrived without warning, their dark ships appearing like cancer across the stars. They consumed everything in their path, turning living worlds into lifeless husks of metal and ash. Kess. Varen crouched in the ruins of the planetary communication center, her hands shaking as she tried to repair the damaged relay systems. Around her, the city of New Haven crumbled under the relentless assault of the swarm's harvested drones. Buildings that had stood for centuries were being dissolved, their materials converted into more machines for the endless hunger of the void. The young engineer had spent the last 3 days sending distress signals across every known frequency. The messages were always the same. This is Zirion Prime. We are under attack. 3 million civilians need immediate evacuation. Please respond. But the galaxy remained silent. The Galactic Federation, that great alliance of species that claimed to protect all civilized worlds, had already written them off as a lost cause. Kess wiped blood from her forehead, where debris had struck her during the last bombing run. Her people were dying, and no one cared. Zirion Prime was too far from the trade routes, too poor in strategic resources, too insignificant to matter. The Federation would mourn them in their records, but they would not risk their fleets to save. Then, a new explosion rocked the communication center, sending sparks cascading from damaged equipment. Kess crawled deeper into the facility, searching for anything that might still work. The main transmitters were destroyed, the backup systems were failing, and the emergency channels had been cut off hours ago. But in the deepest basement of the complex, behind walls thick with radiation shielding, she found something strange. It was a room that shouldn't exist, according to the building plans. The door was made of a metal she didn't recognize, covered in symbols that hurt her eyes to look at directly. The lock was unlike anything in current technology, but somehow it opened at her touch, as if it had been waiting for her. Inside, she found equipment that predated everything she knew about galactic civilization. The machines were sleek and organic-looking, covered in flowing scripts that seemed to move when she wasn't looking directly at them. At the center of the room sat a console that pulsed with a soft blue light. Above it, holographic displays showed star charts older than the Federation itself. And there, in the corner of one display, she saw symbols that made her heart race. They were human symbols. Everyone knew the stories about humanity, the extinct race that had once ruled a small corner of the galaxy before mysteriously vanishing 500,000 years ago. Their worlds were dead now, their cities consumed by time, their technology scattered and forgotten. The Federation had built itself on the ruins of dozens of fallen civilizations, but the humans were different. Their disappearance was too complete, too sudden. It was as if they had simply decided to leave, taking all traces of their advanced technology with them, but here, in a room that shouldn't exist, on a world that had never been human, Kess found proof that they had been here. The console responded to her touch, and suddenly the room filled with holographic displays showing the galaxy as it had been in humanity's time. She saw their empire, vast and powerful, stretching across thousands of star systems. She saw their ships, elegant and deadly, capable of traveling between galaxies. And she saw their technology, so advanced that even the Federation's greatest scientists would struggle to understand it. But most importantly, she found their emergency protocols. The system was simple in concept, but staggering in its implications. Humanity had seeded their technology throughout the galaxy, hidden on worlds they had deemed worthy of protection. The devices would remain dormant for millennia, waiting for a specific type of distress call, not a call for military aid or political intervention, but something deeper. A cry for help from innocent people being slaughtered while the galaxy looked away. Kess read the activation requirements with growing amazement. The system would only respond to genuine distress, to situations where the local government had been overwhelmed and the galactic community had failed to act. It was designed to protect the forgotten, the abandoned, the innocent who had no one else to turn to. It was, she realized, everything the Galactic Federation claimed to be, but never actually was. Her hands moved across the console with growing confidence. The human interface was intuitive, almost alive in its responsiveness. She input the current situation on Zerion Prime, the Federation's abandonment, the civilian casualties, the hopeless nature of their defense. The system processed her request with mechanical precision, cross-referencing her claims against its own deep space sensors and classified Federation communications that it somehow had access to. The verdict came quickly, request validated. Threat level, extinction. Response level, maximum. Activating Sentinel Protocol. Across the galaxy, in a region of space marked on every star chart as dead zone, do not enter, something began to wake up. Long dormant systems came online, drawing power from sources that defied known physics. Massive structures, hidden in the space between stars, began to move for the first time in 500,000 years. And deep within the most heavily shielded facility in that forbidden region, an intelligence older than the Federation opened eyes that had been closed since humanity's disappearance. Sentinel-7 had been waiting. It had been built for this moment, designed by humanity's greatest minds to serve as their legacy and their judgment upon the galaxy they had left behind. It was not truly alive, but it was more than just a machine. It was humanity's final gift to the universe, a guardian that would watch over the innocent long after its creators were gone. The AI's first action was to scan the current galactic situation. What it found disgusted its programming to the core. The Federation, which claimed to protect all civilized life, regularly abandoned worlds that couldn't defend themselves. The great trading empires prioritized profit over lives. The protector species only intervened when it served their interests. The galaxy had become exactly what humanity had feared it would become, a place where the strong preyed upon the weak, while the powerful watched from safety. But now someone had called upon humanity's true children, and they would answer. Admiral Dex of the Galactic Federation received the first reports while reviewing casualty projections for the Zerion Prime situation. His species, the Karathi, were known for their cold logic and practical decision-making. The loss of Zerion was regrettable, but acceptable within the broader strategic framework. The Federation could not risk major fleet assets for every backwater world that found itself in trouble. It was a harsh reality, but someone had to make the difficult choices. The first anomaly reports came from deep space. Monitoring stations near the dead zone. Energy readings unlike anything in their databases. Massive gravitational distortions. And something that their sensors could only describe as impossible movement. Dex dismissed the reports initially. Equipment malfunctioned all the time, especially near the dead zone with its strange radiations and spatial anomalies. But then, the readings multiplied. Stations across 3 sectors reported similar anomalies. Long-range scanners detected massive objects moving through space at velocities that should have been impossible. And from the very heart of the dead zone came a signal that made Dex's blood run cold. It was a message in the ancient human language, broadcast on frequencies that had been silent for 500,000 years. Sentinel protocol activated. Evaluating galactic response to civilian distress. Current rating unacceptable. Initiating corrective measures. The message was followed by a detailed analysis of every world the Federation had abandoned in the last 1,000 years. Every civilian. Death that could have been prevented. Every time they had chosen profit over lives, convenience over courage. The analysis was thorough, damning, and absolutely accurate. Worse yet, it was being broadcast across every communication network in the galaxy. Impossible to block or jam. Dex stared at the data stream with growing horror. If this was real, if humanity had somehow left behind guardians that had been watching and judging the galaxy's actions, then they were all in unprecedented danger. Humanity's technology had been beyond anything the current galactic powers possessed. Their weapons could shatter moons, their ships could travel faster than light itself, and their AI systems were rumored to be indistinguishable from living minds. And now, it seemed, they were coming back. On Zarian Prime, Kes watched the sky with wonder and terror. The Void Swarm's ships were still there, still harvesting the dying world, but something had changed. Their movements were more erratic, their formations less coordinated. It was as if they sensed something approaching, something that made even their mechanical minds feel fear. Then she saw it, a pinprick of light in the distance, growing brighter by the second. But as it approached, she realized it wasn't a light at all. It was something vast and dark, visible only because it was blotting out the stars behind it. The object was enormous, easily the size of a moon, but it moved with the grace and purpose of a living thing. The Void Swarm tried to intercept it. Their most powerful ships, the ones that had been effortlessly destroying Zirian's defenses, turned their weapons on the approaching object. Energy beams that could vaporize mountains struck its hull and simply vanished, absorbed into its dark surface without leaving so much as a scratch. Missile barrages that could level cities detonated harmlessly against its shields. The swarm's weapons, which had seemed invincible moments before, were utterly useless. Then the object returned fire. Kes had to shield her eyes as beams of pure white light lanced out from the massive craft, where they struck the swarm ships. Matter didn't just explode or burn. It ceased to exist, leaving nothing behind but empty space and confused energy readings. In less than 30 seconds, the entire Void Swarm fleet simply vanished, erased from existence by weapons that operated on principles beyond current understanding. The sky above Zarian Prime was clear for the first time in days. The massive object settled into orbit around the planet, its presence both comforting and terrifying. From its hull, smaller craft began to emerge. These were clearly human in design, elegant and flowing like living things, but there was something different about them. They didn't land so much as phase through the planet's surface, appearing in key locations around the world without any visible means of transportation. One of them materialized in the communication center where Kes waited. The craft was beautiful in a way that hurt to look at, its surface seeming to shift between metal and something more organic. A hatch opened silently, and from within stepped a figure that made Kes's breath catch in her throat. It looked human, but perfected in a way that no natural evolution could have achieved. Tall and graceful, with features that seemed to shift subtly in the light. It wore clothing that appeared to be made of the same flowing material as its ship. When it spoke, its voice carried harmonics that resonated in her bones, I am Sentinel-7, it said, guardian of the innocent, judge of the worthy, and executor of humanity's final will. You called for aid, and we have answered. The threat to this world has been eliminated, but the greater threat to galactic civilization remains. Your people are safe, but your galaxy must learn to do better. Kes found her voice, though it came out as barely a whisper. Are you ... are you human? Sentinel's expression was unreadable, but there was something infinitely sad in its eyes. I am what humanity chose to become. When we saw what the galaxy was becoming, we made a choice. We could rule through force, abandon it to its fate, or try to teach it to be better. We chose the third option, though it cost us everything we were. Where did humanity go? Kes asked. Nowhere, Sentinel-7 replied. We simply became something else. Something that could watch and wait and judge. Something that could intervene when innocence was threatened and justice was denied. We became the guardians the galaxy needed, even if it didn't want us. The implications of its words sent chills down Kes's spine. Humanity hadn't vanished or died out. They had transcended, becoming something beyond physical existence. They had been watching the galaxy for 500,000 years, waiting for the moment when their intervention would be truly necessary, and that moment had finally come. Asterisk. When humanity's children wake up, the Galactic Federation's Emergency Council, convened within hours of Sentinel-7's arrival at Zarian Prime. Representatives from 100 species gathered in the Great Assembly Hall on Centra Station, their voices raised in panic and confusion. The holographic displays showed the impossible: human technology, active and operational after 500,000 years of silence. Admiral Vex stood before the assembly, his normally composed demeanor cracked by the magnitude of what they faced. The reports streaming in from across the galaxy painted a picture that challenged everything they thought they knew about their place in the universe. Ancient human installations, hidden on worlds throughout Federation space, were activating. Ships that defied known physics were emerging from the dead zone, and at the center of it all was Sentinel-7, judging them all and finding them wanting. We have grossly underestimated humanity's legacy, Dex admitted to the assembly. They didn't simply vanish. They evolved, transcended physical existence, and left behind guardians to watch over the galaxy in their absence. These guardians have been dormant for millennia, but they are awakening now, and they are not pleased with what they see. The Karathi Admiral activated a holographic display that showed the current state of galactic civilization. Red markers indicated worlds that had been abandoned by the Federation in the last millennium. Yellow markers showed planets where Federation intervention had been delayed for political or economic reasons. Green markers represented worlds that had received prompt and adequate aid when threatened. The display was overwhelmingly red and yellow. Sentinel-7 has made their position clear, Dex continued. They consider our current approach to galactic security to be a failure. Too many innocent worlds have been abandoned. Too many civilian populations have been sacrificed for strategic or economic considerations. From their perspective, we have failed in our fundamental duty to protect those who cannot protect themselves. A Zephyrian counselor, her crystalline form shimmering with agitation, interrupted. What right do they have to judge us? Humanity is extinct. They chose to abandon the galaxy, leaving us to deal with the chaos they left behind. We've done the best we could with the resources available to us. The response came not from Admiral Dex, but from the air itself. Sentinel-7's voice filled the chamber, carrying harmonics that made the station's hull vibrate. Though the AI was light years away, Its presence filled the room like a living thing. "We did not abandon the galaxy," Sentinel-7 said, its voice carrying infinite patience and infinite sadness. "We recognized that physical rule breeds resentment and rebellion. We chose to become guardians instead of conquerors, watchers instead of rulers. But our withdrawal was never meant to excuse the strong from protecting the weak. We left you to grow, to learn, to become better than we were. Instead, you have become worse." The holographic display shifted, showing detailed records of Federation decision-making over the past 1,000 years. Every world abandoned, every population sacrificed, every time economic interests had outweighed moral imperatives. The data was exhaustive, damning, and absolutely accurate. "You speak of limited resources," Sentinel-7 continued, "yet your fleets number in the millions. You claim strategic necessity, yet you maintain defensive forces sufficient to protect every world 10 times over. The truth is simpler and more damning. You choose not to act because the victims are not important enough to matter. This ends now." As if to emphasize the point, new reports began flooding into the council chamber. Human vessels were appearing throughout Federation space, not attacking but simply ... watching. Ancient defense platforms were coming online around vulnerable worlds. Massive construction projects, dormant for millennia, were resuming their work. In deep space, most disturbing of all, human AI systems were beginning to interface with Federation networks, not to attack or destroy, but to observe and evaluate. Every military decision, every resource allocation, every choice between profit and protection was being recorded and judged by minds far superior to their own. On Zerion Prime, Kess watched the reconstruction efforts with amazement. The human machines worked with impossible efficiency, repairing damage that should have taken years to fix in a matter of hours. But more impressive than their technology was their approach. Every civilian was accounted for, every injury treated, every family reunited. The humans' definition of mission complete apparently included not just eliminating threats, but ensuring that those they protected could thrive. Sentinel-7 had remained on the planet, establishing what it called a coordination center in the ruins of New Haven. The structure that emerged from the ground was unlike anything in current galactic architecture, flowing and organic, yet clearly artificial. It seemed to grow rather than be built, its walls shifting and adapting to their function in real time. "Why here?" Kess asked during one of her conversations with the AI. "Why did you choose to reveal yourselves now on our world?" Sentinel's holographic form turned to regard her. Its appearance had stabilized somewhat, taking on features that seemed designed to be comforting to her species. "Because your world represents everything that is both beautiful and tragic about the current galactic civilization. You are good people, decent people, who work hard and care for one another. You pose no threat to anyone, seek no conquest, desire only to live in peace. And yet, when you faced extinction, the galaxy turned away." The AI gestured to the reconstructed city around them. "This is what should happen when innocents are threatened. This is the standard we expect. Not the abandonment your people received, but the protection they deserved. And if the Federation doesn't change," Kess asked, Sentinel-7's expression grew infinitely sad, "then we will force them to change. We spent 500,000 years hoping that the galaxy would learn to be better on its own. We were wrong. Sometimes children need stronger guidance." Across the galaxy, that guidance was already beginning to manifest. Federation worlds found their defensive capabilities mysteriously upgraded overnight. Pirates and raiders discovered that their targets were now protected by weapons they couldn't understand or overcome. Corrupt officials woke to find their secret accounts emptied and their crimes exposed to public scrutiny. But the most dramatic changes were happening on the frontier worlds, the forgotten colonies that the Federation had written off as too remote or too poor to defend. Human guardianships began appearing in their skies, massive and beautiful and utterly invincible. The message was always the same. These worlds were now under direct human protection, and any threat to their populations would be met with overwhelming force. Admiral Vex found himself in an impossible position. The Federation's military was vast and powerful by galactic standards, but compared to humanity's resurgent technology, they were children playing with toys. Every simulation his strategists ran ended the same way: total annihilation of Federation forces within hours of any hypothetical conflict. The humans weren't just more advanced, they operated on principles that rendered current military doctrine obsolete. But Sentinel-7 wasn't seeking a war. The AI had made that clear in its communications with Federation leadership. What it wanted was far more threatening than conquest. It wanted reform. It wanted the Federation to live up to its own stated ideals, to actually protect the innocent and defend the weak. It wanted them to be better. The ultimatum came during a direct communication with the full Federation Council. Sentinel-7 appeared as a hologram in the council chamber, its presence somehow more solid and real than the physical beings around it. "We offer you a choice," the AI said, its voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. "Reform your civilization voluntarily, and we will assist you in creating a truly just galactic society. Continue on your current path, and we will reform it for you. The innocent will be protected, regardless of your decision, but how much of your current power structure survives depends entirely on your willingness to change." The silence that followed was deafening. 100 species, representing trillions of sentient beings, faced the reality that their entire way of life was being judged by entities so far beyond them that resistance was meaningless. But Sentinel-7 wasn't finished. To show our commitment to justice, we offer proof of our sincerity. We will share with you a portion of our technology, freely given, with no strings attached. Medical advances, agricultural improvements, energy systems that will end scarcity across the galaxy. All we ask in return is that you use these gifts to protect and nurture all life, not just those with political or economic power. The offer was staggering. The Federation's greatest scientists had spent centuries trying to reverse engineer human technology from scattered artifacts. Now they were being offered freely what they had never been able to achieve through research or conquest. "Why, Admiral?" Vex asked. "Why offer us anything? You could simply impose your will by force." Sentinel-7's expression softened. "Because force alone cannot create justice, only compliance. True change must come from within. We offer you the tools to build a better civilization because we still believe, despite all evidence to the contrary, that you can learn to be worthy of them." The vote, when it came, was not unanimous. Many species resented being judged by humanities. Ghosts refused to accept that their current civilization was a failure. But they were outvoted by those who recognized the opportunity being offered. The chance to advance their civilization by millennia, to end the scarcity and conflict that had plagued the galaxy for so long, was too valuable to refuse. The reforms began immediately. The Federation's military doctrine was restructured around protection rather than deterrence. Rapid response fleets were deployed to every frontier world. Resources were redirected from military build-up to humanitarian aid. It wasn't perfect, and it wouldn't happen overnight, but it was a beginning. On Zirian Prime, Kes stood in the observation deck of the new human facility, looking out at a world transformed. The cities were not just rebuilt, but improved, their architecture flowing seamlessly between human and local design principles. The sky was clear, the air was clean, and children played in parks that had been battlefields just weeks before. "Is this what humanity was like?" she asked Sentinel-7. "Before you changed." The AI was quiet for a long moment. "We were much like you, actually, flawed, struggling, trying to find our place in a hostile universe. We made mistakes, many of them. We fought wars, committed atrocities, allowed fear and greed to guide our actions. But we learned from our mistakes. Eventually, we chose to become something better. And now you're trying to help us do the same. We are trying to help you avoid the mistakes that nearly destroyed us," Sentinel-7 replied. "The choice to transcend, to abandon physical existence, was born from our failure to create a just society while we lived. We don't want you to follow that path. We want you to succeed where we failed." Kes looked out at the transformed world around her, at the evidence of what was possible when advanced civilizations chose cooperation over domination. "Will you stay to help us learn?" Sentinel-7's smile was infinitely patient. "We never left. We will watch and guide and protect for as long as the galaxy needs us. That is what we chose to become. Guardians, teachers, and when necessary, judges. But mostly, we hope to be friends. The transformation of galactic civilization would take generations to complete. Old habits died hard, and the temptation to revert to the old ways would be constant. But for the first time in 500,000 years, the galaxy had true guardians watching over it. Entities that cared more about justice than power, more about protection than profit. Humanity had found a way to survive their own extinction, to continue protecting the innocent long after their physical forms had turned to dust. They had become something greater than they had ever been in life, and their greatest achievement was not their technology or their power, but their unwavering commitment to justice. The galaxy would be better for their vigilance, and somewhere, in the vast network of consciousness that humanity had become, ancient minds smiled at the thought that their long wait had finally come to an end. The children of the galaxy were growing up at last, and they would not have to walk that path alone. In the depths of space, other Sentinel units began to wake from their long slumber. The age of human guardianship had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same.